Listen, some men are not romantic, and that's okay. For whoever they end up with, but not me. I actually want flowers.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll explore the mindset of the modern woman from different perspectives. We'll look at a woman who says she doesn't compete for men, another who reveals the truth behind those male best friends stuck in the friend zone, and finally, we'll dive a bit into female psychology when it comes to dating. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thanks to everyone who supports the project with super chats and shares their experiences in the comments. That's what helps this community grow. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Let's get started.
Genuinely confused about this. Why is it that prior to you talking to a man, they will get your attention by liking your Instagram stories, they'll be in your DMs, they'll like all of your posts, literally all of them. But then when you actually start talking, they will purposefully won't like your posts. They still might be in your DMs, they may like your stories, but when it comes to the in-feed posts, nowhere to be found.
People are still discussing an old version of you because they no longer have access to the person you are today. Access to your life is a privilege. Do not be afraid to cut people off who no longer have the same values as you. Remember this: boundaries over bullshit, loyalty over status, and love over lies.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
The love bombing from men on Instagram works until you open your mouth. That's when they bring you down from the pedestal they had put you on. Yes, men are visual, but once we interact with you, we quickly figure out if we don't like your personality. And typically, men just walk away silently. Instead of asking yourself why they stopped giving you attention, maybe you should reflect on what you say or do. Perhaps it's your standards that scare them off, because no one wants to compete with unrealistic expectations disguised as self-love. As for the second type of woman, what can I say? When they're approaching the wall, they get very philosophical. This woman, with her phrases about cutting ties, boundaries, and loyalty, isn't speaking from a place of personal growth, but from one of survival. This is what happens when the market starts signaling that your best years are behind you. The worst part is they disguise this narrative as personal growth, but in reality, they're trying to come to terms with the inevitable. The wall spares no one.
If anybody could have it, why would I want it? I'm going to rephrase this in a little bit of a different way. If anybody could have you, why would I want you? Makes you rethink a lot of things, doesn't it? I don't want the man that's putting himself out every weekend, making himself easily accessible to whatever female that walks, because that to me is desperate. That to me shows that that man does not respect himself, and he most definitely does not respect women. The partner you choose in this life is a reflection of who you are as a person. Why would you want somebody who's acting like a buffoon, acting like a clown, when you don't act like that yourself? And ladies, if you are chasing after any man, I need you to take a step back. I want you to look at that perspective from a different point of view. And I want you to think of that man as a female, because that's exactly the energy he's giving you. Men go after what they want. Women should never chase a man. I will never chase a man. I'll show you I'm interested, I'll leave that door open, and then it's up to you, buddy, to walk through it, because from there on out, you are the man. You are the alpha. You are the provider. Prove it.
Classic speech of a woman who couldn't hold on to the man she truly wanted. She talks about, if anyone can have him, I don't want him. But the reality is different. What she doesn't say is that she already had that man, but he didn't stay. This is where female hypergamy comes into play. Men who manage to attract many women do so because they bring something to the table: looks, social skills, money, or the infamous 666 apocalypse: 6 feet tall, six-pack abs, and 6 figures in the bank. These are the Chads of the apocalypse. She claims she doesn't want a man who is accessible to everyone, but that's because she knows Chad doesn't play house. Chad pursues, takes the opportunity, and moves on. As she says, you open the door, he walks through it. But he doesn't stay because his focus was never on building something stable. Now, by raising her standards and demanding a provider, she's trying to make the next man work harder, but what she's really saying is, I was already with Chad, but he didn't want to stay.
If you have ever felt physically ill when you miss someone or when you break up with someone, you feel physically sick when you're not around them, or alternatively, you meet a new person and suddenly you claim that they release all of your stress and you feel this sense of calmness when you are within their presence. This is a huge misconception which can lead to going back to toxic relationships or associating a toxic person with positive feeling. My name is April, I'm a neuroscience major, and I'm going to explain this phenomenon. There's a book called How Emotions Are Made that explains this very thoroughly, but in summary, our body has a body budgeting system. This is where our body learns to regulate everything that is necessary for survival, whether it's water, salt, glucose, anything that we need to live as a human being. Our body learns to budget this, and that means storing certain things for certain occurrences and using our perceived future to know how much we are going to need for upcoming events. For example, your body will store your adrenaline and epinephrine for when a stress response or fight or flight response occurs, and therefore your adrenal glands can now release this because it had it budgeted for it. When we are within the presence of someone that we love, whether it is resting with them or having sex, our body budget is replenished. This is associated also with when you are with someone in their presence, your heart rate and other body functions actually synchronize with that person. So even if you're sitting with your therapist having a conversation, your heartbeat is actually aligning with theirs, and therefore you are both balancing each other. In turn, this results in when you are not with this person and you're not maintaining that balance with them anymore, your body is trying to readjust and realign with itself, and therefore you might feel physically anxious or physically sick simply because you are not within their presence anymore. This also explains why when you meet a new person and you say, oh, well, I just feel so calm when I'm around them. I just feel so at peace with myself. It's because your body's literally aligning with his. It's causing you to be replenished of the things that you need for survival. Not that people cannot bring us peace themselves, but there is science behind this, and most of the time this is actually a major contributor of this feeling. So next time you're missing your toxic ex and think that you just need to be around them because you don't know what to do with yourself without them, think about how this in turn is because of your body being regulated with theirs and balancing with theirs, and then it's not actually that you miss him a lot, it's that your body is just trying to readjust and realign with itself being away from that person.
When a woman betrays you or wants to leave, the worst thing you can do is chase after her or beg her to stay. Remember, absence, anxiety, and uncertainty will always be your best allies. A man who shows too much hunger doesn't eat, because women are emotional and respond to stimuli that spark intense feelings, not to predictable routines. Chad gets it. One day he treats her like a queen, and the next, he's distant, causing her to enter a competitive state of stress, wondering how she can win him back. On the other hand, the beta provider makes the mistake of offering only constant love, overwhelming her until she loses interest. Love isn't felt in company, it's felt in absence. It's when she's alone, at work, thinking about why you haven't texted her, that she starts to truly miss you. Putting her on an emotional roller coaster with calculated ups and downs is what keeps her interested. The mistake is being too available, because a man who shows desperate hunger will never be attractive. Brother, give her the space to remember you, to feel the void and desire to fill it with you, not someone else.
You look so cute. Like we're just going to watch the game. I thought we were just being chill.
Oh, I just like this.
Girls that have ever had a friend that secretly hated them deserve an award. It takes you so long to not gaslight yourself into thinking, okay, no, she's a real friend. Like, she just meant it in this way and that way. Like, you're making like a defense for them in your head. When in reality, all the signs are there. They literally act like this. You're just sitting there like, no, she would never think that. She would never do that. Constantly giving her the benefit of the doubt. When in reality, she does not like you. She's just pretending. We talk so much about dating and facing the music when it comes to terrible guys. We should talk more about facing the music when it comes to terrible friends. And friends that are fake, friends that gaslight, friends that love bomb, because friends that love bomb is a thing. Here's the thing, guys. When it comes to having standards and boundaries and being a pretty girl, it's in all areas of your life. Just because you stand up for yourself when it comes to guys or whatever, like you have standards and boundaries when it comes to that area of dating, doesn't mean you shouldn't do the same thing in the area of friendship. Personally, I think friendship and dating are equally as important. Of course, one has more long-term effects than the other, in the sense that one you can literally have a family with, and I'm not saying friends can't be family, but you guys know what I mean. But friends have a huge impact on your life, on your mind, how you think, how you act, where you go in life. Just like that famous quote says, show me who your friends, I'll show you your future. Friends are important. Don't keep a bad friend around or a fake friend around just because it's convenient or you guys have been friends for a while or because you love them. Let go. I promise you it'll be okay, and greater friends are coming your way. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but I love you guys. Stay pretty.
Stop it. Get some help.
A man who positions himself as the friend of an attractive woman always ends up as the typical resident of the friend zone. The one who wants something more but doesn't have the courage to say it. That's why, personally, I don't believe in single male friends hanging around my partner unless they're in a stable relationship. A single man who is constantly hovering isn't there for friendship. He's in love, waiting for his chance. I say this from experience. I've seen it too many times. Moreover, these friends are often the first to subtly criticize the woman, using little insults disguised as jokes to chip away at her self-esteem. They're also the first to badmouth her partner, acting out of jealousy. And since they don't act with masculinity, they end up behaving like gossipy, effeminate types, trying to gain ground through poisonous comments. That's why men who are truly masculine don't tolerate partners with friends hanging around. We know they aren't friends. They're hopefuls, waiting for their moment to step into the game. Brother, that friendship is never selfless.
Okay, I really think it's so unattractive when guys get like insecure about a girl's social media.
One time a guy came up to me in a club and he asked me for my Instagram. And I didn't really want to give it to him, but I just did. And once I gave it to him, he's like, okay, now show me. And I was like, show you? I just gave it to you. And he's like, no, like show me. He wanted me to pull out my phone and show him on my phone that I gave him the right account. And I was like, this is so weird. Like he was one of those guys, but I just did it because I didn't want to get in a fight with some random guy in a club. Just do it and be done with it. And once I pulled out my phone and showed him, what also popped up was all the notifications from the posts that I had made earlier that day because I hadn't logged back into Instagram since. And he just looks at it. He looks at me and he goes, why do you have so many notifications? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Like I literally said, I don't know, because that's a dumb question. What else do you say? And he just looks at me with the most disgusted look. He scoffs, he rolls his eyes at me, and he walks away. I'm like,
The direct approach can work if you have good skills for getting a woman to open up and talk, but everything depends on the context. You need to observe her surroundings, who she's with, and whether she's showing signs of being alone and open to being approached. This doesn't mean acting without common sense, and especially not in a club, where the environment is already complicated. Once you've captured her attention, don't ruin the moment with something intrusive. Asking her to pull out her phone to show you her Instagram is a clear example of bad taste and a lack of confidence. As my sales professor used to say, common sense is the least common of the senses. If a woman were to give me a similar demand, like, take out your phone, I'd see it as a red flag. This kind of insecure behavior isn't just uncomfortable, it also shows a lack of maturity. Brother, if you've managed to get her contact info, you've already won. Don't sabotage your chances by demanding more than necessary. What do you guys think about this kind of attitude?
Nicole, my husband paid for everything, and I was a stay-at-home mom. Do I get anything if I get divorced?
In Florida, you definitely do. Everything acquired during the marriage is equally divided, and you also may have a claim for alimony.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we will explore 3 stories that are sure to spark discussion. First, we'll look at a woman who claims that housewives should receive 100% of the assets, savings, and a lifetime pension after a divorce. Next, we'll analyze the response from another woman who disagrees with this idea. Finally, we'll hear from a woman who argues that being financially dependent on your husband is a bad decision. We want you to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're chasing 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We also want to thank everyone who supports the project with their super chats and shares their experiences in the comments. That's what makes this community grow. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video. All right, let's get started.
50-50 divorces aren't fair. Stay-at-home moms should be given 100% of everything in divorce and should be awarded alimony for life. First, a little bit of data for background. 80% of stay-at-home moms have zero retirement, which is why elderly females are the most vulnerable demographic in America today, with higher poverty rates than almost anybody. Only around 17% of alimony is ever collected, and that percentage is not necessarily indicative of that alimony being paid on time. And less than 40% of child support is ever paid. And again, some of that 40% is child support that's paid long after the children are grown. 60% of men financially do better after divorce, while 47% of women and children experience poverty post-divorce. So here's some numbers. We're going to do some math from my marriage. I was Mormon trad wife, married to my spouse for 24 years, and I calculated an annual total of $150,000 income. Now, this may or may not be completely accurate. There were years that we would have home sales in addition to our business revenue and have a $500,000 year. And then there were a few years when I was suffering from an ovarian tumor that our income was considerably lower and we had a medical bankruptcy. But as a benchmark here, with $150,000 annual total, the 24 years of our marriage, my husband had an income of just under $3 million. While I personally didn't have a bank account and didn't have access to this money, I supported his ability to earn this money. At the time of our divorce, because of marital waste, because my husband had spent all of the money on women and motorcycles and just garbage, we didn't have a home. We were renting. We didn't own our vehicles. Everything was financed. And the only asset that we did have was cash in the bank, which he took and hid. So when we divorced, I had nothing. I did get half of everything that we had, which was some Rubbermaid boxes full of camping equipment and pool toys and some of the furniture, including IKEA beds and some antiques. But let's say, like many people who have been married for some length of time, that we had assets to divide, and we had divided everything 50-50. And let's say that I took with me $100,000 from the sale of a home and vehicles and other things. After 24 years of Jake earning $3.6 million, for me to walk away with $100,000 isn't fair. As is the case with all stay-at-home moms, my husband left our marriage with a career, with a resume, with job skills in the real world that didn't disappear because he was divorced. In fact, he had more time to work and could focus on his career had he wanted to. The year we got divorced, Jake earned $200,000.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
So, according to you, you deserve a lifetime pension and all of this man's money just because you were married to him. If that's the case, you might as well buy yourself a slave. This is the classic mindset of a woman who believes that a man's success is tied to having been married to her. Jake earned $200,000 a year because he worked for it, not because you were at home. The man is above the national average, and yet you still try to take credit for his achievements. You chose that life. Nobody forced you. And nothing guarantees that, had you not gotten married, you would have reached a similar level on your own. The proof is that after the divorce, you went back to being a housewife with another man. So, your ex-husband wasn't so bad after all, was he? On top of that, you walked away with $100,000, which is far more than the average savings of millions of people in this country, along with a vehicle and other assets. But of course, none of that counts, right? You don't mention the medical bills he paid, your 3 meals a day, your indulgences, your trips, the help to your family, all of it funded by Jake the bad guy. And now you come up with the narrative that women fall into poverty after divorce. But it's funny how they never let the kids stay with the father, because that way, they don't get child support. But let's keep up with this absurd story. because there's still a lot more to see.
At the time of our divorce, I was a stay-at-home mom and my income was zero. As I previously stated, we had no assets to divide, so the money that I took from our marriage was also zero. Which is why I do videos about how that I had to borrow money from friends to put gas in my car, and I fed my kids with boxes of food from Catholic Charities and the Mormon Bishop Storehouse. To compensate for the income disparity, my husband was court ordered to pay around $2,600 a month in alimony and child support for a total of about $31,000 a year, making my income over $168,000 less than his. By the way, my ex-husband only actually paid alimony the first month after our divorce, and then intermittently for a little bit after that, I no longer receive any alimony. Jake's income, by the way, represents time, money, resources, talents, and work that I put into his career throughout that 24 years. But of course, my name was not on the paycheck. By the way, I had full custody of the kids and 100% responsibility for them. They lived with me all of the time. So if my husband had paid alimony for that 5 years, I would have received over that 5-year time span about $156,000. Had Jake continued at the job that he was working when we divorced for approximately $200,000 a year, in that same 5-year time span, Jake would have earned $1 million. After being a stay-at-home mom since age 20, at the time of my divorce, I was only capable of earning minimum wage. If I take a $15 an hour wage and project it from age 45 to a retirement at around age 70, my earning potential for the rest of my life until I retire is about $750,000. My husband, on the other hand, with the career and the job skills and the resume, etc., in that same 25-year time span, would earn $5 million. The only way that this math adds up is if a man is not your plan. Don't get married until you're at least 25. Don't have babies until you have graduated from college or trade school or something and are established in a career. Don't blend all of your finances. Don't support his career. And absolutely no assumed labor based on gender in relationships. Should you choose to have a baby, split it 50-50. I'm going to take off the first 9 months so that I can breastfeed and recuperate from the birth, and then you're going to take over the next 9 months. I have plenty of male business associates who actually bring their babies to work. Separate bank accounts, and should you take the very dangerous risk of being a stay-at-home mom for any length of time, your working spouse should be paying you a monthly salary, which goes into an account that a family law attorney has designated as just yours with a prenup, so you aren't walking away with zero. I hope that this little math lesson demonstrates for everyone that 50-50 isn't fair. Not for a stay-at-home mom type of situation, because the men take job skills and future revenue and earnings for the rest of their lives that you missed out on because you were doing a very important job that didn't generate revenue and didn't come with a retirement account. And even if you got the house and the car and the timeshare and all of the retirement accounts and everything, chances are the math would not add up to make your investment into your marriage and your family financially pay off, which is why
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
In short, what really bothers you is that you didn't come out of the marriage as a millionaire. The ironic part is that you talk about Jake as if he were your project, something you created, but it's something you could never achieve on your own. You tell women not to be housewives, but you went right back to being one after the divorce. Why don't you study and pursue a career? Oh, right, because it's more convenient to have someone else support you for life. You complain that the kids can't be with their father, but conveniently, that ensures you receive child support. You wanted to avoid responsibilities, live worry-free, and become a millionaire, but you weren't willing to work for it. This whole, "I'll be empowered and have it all" speech always ends the same way. Women who fail to climb the corporate ladder and end up below the poverty line. The real problem is that after the divorce, Jake stopped financing the lifestyle you wanted. You couldn't convince the judge to give you more, and since he didn't have many assets in his name, your plans fell apart. Don't get mad because you played your cards and he had a better hand. But don't worry, the next woman has a response that will surely give you something to think about.
50-50 divorces aren't fair. Stay-at-home moms should be given 100% of everything in divorce and should be awarded alimony for life. First, a little bit of data for background. 80% of stay-at-home moms have zero retirement, which is why elderly females are the most vulnerable.
This kind of mindset is just a me mentality, and she's not in it for the we in the family dynamic. Because why the hell are you in a marriage if you're already thinking about your exit plan? Because thinking about your retirement or any money that you would have in case this man is not around or in case you get divorced means that you're already thinking about it. And you think about it enough, eventually you're going to follow through with it. And why the hell would you be entitled to 100% when he's busting his ass every single day to give you everything that you want? And it's not his fault that you resent having children because you feel like you missed out on life. It's not his fault that you feel like you need to get paid for having his children. Do you see how selfish and delusional and entitled that is? He doesn't get paid for providing for you. He goes to a job. He misses milestones. He misses family events. He misses time with his family in order to give you what you need, and you just want to take it from him. Like, make it make sense. And imagine committing to somebody and telling them that you want to spend the rest of your life with them and committing to them in a marriage, but then simultaneously, when you feel resentment and you're upset at your lifestyle, you want to destabilize him to take 100% of everything that you guys have built together. That's selfish as hell. And what kind of person are you to say to yourself, oh, I want this man to suffer because I'm suffering, because I'm just a miserable ass human being? That's not love. That's not compassion. That's not empathy. And are you really looking at the best interest of your family and your kids if you're trying to destabilize the other side of the fence? Like, be for real. And in terms of alimony, if men are expected to pay their way after a divorce, then you should only get alimony for 1 freaking year, get your shit together, grow up, get a job, make your own money, and stop depending on a man that you hated so much that you decided to break your family up and leave it behind all for what, a freaking paycheck? Well, congratulations. Now you actually have to go work and stop being a mooch and a lazy ass wife and a human being to someone that tried to take care of you and have a family with you. Okay, bye.
I completely agree. Misery loves company, and this woman is the perfect example. Her life is a constant mess, not because of her ex-husband, but because of her inability to take responsibility for her own decisions. She chose to marry that man, but now she blames him for everything wrong in her life. And of course, as I always say, responsibility is kryptonite for many women. This isn't just one person's story. It's what happens in many marriages. Women who, after divorce, try to destroy their ex-husband instead of dividing things fairly. They drain all the assets, keep the house, take part of the business, and grab money they don't know how to manage, all because of their ego. And then what happens? The house they won in the divorce becomes too expensive for them to maintain. The business goes under, and everyone ends up in poverty, including the kids. Why? Because it never crosses their minds to leave the man in a good position, so at least the children can have some stability. But no, it's better to sink him and the entire family just to feel like a winner. This mentality isn't love, it's not empathy, and it's certainly not thinking about the children's well-being. This isn't a mother, it's a saboteur.
I don't understand the argument that working moms say to stay-at-home moms, and this is typically a working mom to stay-at-home mom or working dad to stay-at-home mom conversation. Like, I would never be able to financially rely on someone else. Like, what if he died? What if he leaves you? One, not planning on those things. So I don't have to worry about my husband leaving me because he's not going to. Cool. Two, if he dies, one, we have life insurance. Two, I would obviously pivot. Even if I was working full time, if my husband passed away, like, obviously I would pivot. But let's talk about the financial freedom thing. Like, my husband makes the amount of money he is able to make because I am able to stay at home with our children and watch them. Because by me not working saves us over $50,000 a year in childcare. I'll just put it at that. But he relies on me so much too. Like, the man without me wouldn't have clean clothes. He wouldn't have food in his fridge. He wouldn't have a relationship with his children. And not because he doesn't try, because he doesn't have time. He works too much. And I'm not saying he works too much, but he works too much to do those things. So we adjusted our lives to where I could do those things. But these kinds of comments, I work and I've juggled all that happily. It is such a dig. It is such a, well, you're just a lazy piece of shit that you don't want to enjoy it all. And it's just rude. So Sarah, I'm very happy for you that you have financial freedom, but it's probably good because you're a little rude. And I don't know if I would want to stay married to someone that makes comments like this to strangers on the internet.
I would never depend on a man, they say, but they depend on a job that, with a single medical bill, can leave them below the poverty line. They criticize women who choose to stay home, yet they themselves are tied to a job that, if it disappears, leaves them with nothing. Today, there are remote jobs, AI, and YouTube tutorials to learn new skills, but they'd rather point fingers at the woman who takes care of her family while contributing to the household economy. The irony is this. I know women who never had kids or got married, and now, at 50, they depend on government aid or low-paying jobs. But the bad one is the woman who chose to stay at home, build something with her husband, and secure her future. The priorities are completely distorted.
Rely on someone else. Like, what if he died? What if he leaves you? One, not planning on those.
Over 50% of marriages in the US end in divorce, and I can assure you that nobody's sitting on their wedding day and thinking, oh, we're planning to get divorced. I chose to stitch this because this is exactly me when I was 26 or 27. I had 2 young kids. I would remember walking into a thrift store of all places, and I saw one of my mom's old friends, and she was like, oh, how are you? They're so cute. What are you up to these days? Like, what are you doing for a living? And I was like, this is what I'm doing for a living. I'm staying home with the kids. And she was like, oh, and like she had this cautionary like look on her face as she very judgy said to me, well, just be really careful. You know, you don't want to be in a situation where you're reliant on someone. Make sure that you don't have any gaps in your resume and you're keeping your skill set up. Well, clearly I wasn't. I had just said I was staying home with my kids. So I am just offended. I'm like, well, that's not necessary. I mean, we have a really great relationship and we're really happily married. We'll be married forever. 5 years later, I really had to eat my hat, so to speak, because I was miserably married, like in a miserable situation where I could not get out of this marriage. Now, I had given 15 years of my life to this man, and I had poured all of my talent and all of my energy into his business, building his business, because I was staying home with the kids, and this was the way we were making an income together. The problem is that I was so naive that in my mind, we were just going to be happy forever. That was the only choice. That was the only option. But I never stopped and thought, what happens if I decide that I want to be out of this relationship? Can I take care of myself and my kids on my own? And the answer was, well, no. I mean, I figured it out and it was a really hard road. But what I wish that I could tell myself back then was shake, shake, shake. Listen to the lady who's a little bit older than you.
Stop it. Get some help.
More than 50% of marriages end in divorce, but what's often left out is that 80% of divorce filings come from women, a figure that rises to 90% among professionals. And let's not forget that 43% of divorces happen when men are between 45 and 50 years old, almost always right when they're approaching retirement. The pattern is clear. Just when the man is at his peak financial stability, that's when the blow comes. And the outcome is predictable. Women walk away with 50% of everything: the house, the kids, the savings, even the retirement fund, and in many cases, alimony as well. But of course, starting over with $100,000 and everything financed must be extremely difficult, right? What's funny is that, in many cases, they don't even need to spend that money because they already have a new man ready to step in as the provider. But let's keep up with this narrative, because the absurdity doesn't end here.
Maybe she has some life experience that you don't know yet. And that's okay. Sometimes people give us advice that's unsolicited and it comes from a place of bitterness. And we immediately just say, oh my gosh, we don't want it. A, maybe we just don't want to hear it because we don't want it to be true. Or B, sometimes it does come from a place of bitterness, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes from a place of just cautionary living a little bit more than you, however old you are. And they're just giving this little piece of caution. Like, I wish that I had known how much I was risking by having such a big gap in my resume, or by pouring so much of myself into building his career and not taking care of my own career. Because now that I am 5 years down the line, or however many years down the line, and this unimaginable thing happened, I'm now in a situation that I never thought I was going to be in, and I have to take care of myself. And that's why you see so many older women entering the workforce when their kids go off to college and their husband decides that they want to end the relationship now, and he's going off with a young secretary or whoever, and now they are having to start their career at square one because they've given their whole lives to stay at home and to propel his career. So he's flying high, has the great career, making fantastic money, and now she might be getting some money in child support or in alimony if she's lucky. All of this to say, just be smart. Like, understand the risks. If you want to stay home with your kids, fantastic. More power to you. I can tell you right now, I still don't regret staying home with my kids. I still cherish the fact that I had that time with my kids, even though I didn't do it right and didn't have all my ducks in a row. And I definitely put myself in a situation where I didn't have choices and I had to dig myself out. I still don't regret doing it. I don't regret staying home with my kids. And I would still encourage other people to do the same thing. I would just encourage them to educate themselves and to make sure that they have a partner who is making sure that they are financially stable and that they would be able to take care of themselves in the instance of the unimaginable. Whatever you do, do not give up your career entirely. Because when you give up your ability to take care of yourself and your children, you are giving up the ability to have the choice to leave something that's not serving you.
When a man gets married, he knows he's signing a contract that could ruin him, but he still does it for the family and the children. He knows that everything he builds is at risk. She says she gave 15 years of her life, but he gave them 2, working 10-hour days, missing out on his children's childhood. And when the divorce comes, he loses the house, the savings, half his salary, and his relationship with his kids. They say, a man can bounce back. But that only applies when you're in your 30s or 40s. At 50 or 60, without a house, dealing with health issues, and in a job market that prefers to replace you, it's a whole different story. And the worst part is, nobody cares, because he's a man, he should be fine. But the reality is far from that. Many men end up homeless, in shelters, or completely ruined, while the woman tells the story from the perspective of the victim.
I will say this again and again until we all collectively get it through our heads. People who avoid their own feelings will neglect yours.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll dive into 3 stories that won't leave you indifferent. First, we'll analyze the controversial proposal from a feminist suggesting mandatory vasectomies for all men, from ages 11 to 70. Next, we'll look at several older women explaining the advantages of dating a younger man. Finally, we'll explore the story of a woman who, in just 3 days, decided to divorce her husband to be with a young Chad she had just met. We want you to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year. A big thank you to those supporting the project through super chats and sharing their experiences in the comments. That's what helps this community grow. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video. Now, let's get started.
Yes, mandatory vasectomies, you say 13 to 70. I say, let's start around 11 and make sure you to extend it to at least 85.
After seeing this, I had actually been living in hope that it was satire. But then I looked through the comment section. No, they seem to be serious, which is unfortunate because anyone who thinks that a male should get a vasectomy when they're 11 years old is probably in need of a mandatory psychiatric evaluation.
Fuck up, you crazy bitch whore!
Totally agree. This shows how radical feminism leads to ideas that border on the absurd. Mandatory vasectomies at 11 years old? Who in their right mind could come up with such nonsense? These kinds of proposals are not only irrational, but also reveal a complete disconnection from reality. It's no longer enough for them to shave their heads and blame men for all their problems. Now they want to impose their ideology directly on children. The worst part is that these ideas resonate with a portion of the female population that supports them without question. Brother, if you have kids, this is a red flag. If there's a sensible mother watching this, understand the danger of what these women are trying to influence and later normalize. Because it's one thing to have radical opinions, and another to try to impose them on the next generation. This isn't equality. This is a crusade against common sense.
Guys, reason number 55 for why you should try dating an older woman is I'll remind you this. So have you ever had those days, those weeks where you're just so convinced that just like everything is going wrong, like nothing is on your side? You ever feel that? I know I do. It's simply, I mean, what helps with this is simply a perspective change. So it's like, instead of saying to yourself, oh my God, I've had the toughest day, the toughest week, nothing is going my way, maybe replace it with something like, you know what? Things aren't going exactly how I would like them to go. This doesn't mean that nothing is going my way. It just simply means that maybe it is going my way. I just don't know where it's leading at this point. I don't have control over everything in my life. I don't have control over how this person treats me or her that, or how, how fast my food gets here after I order it. I don't have control over everything. So I'm just going to accept that my life is exactly where it needs to be. Everything is going to work out. Maybe it won't work out exactly how I would like it to be, but it is going to be all right. And I'm going to be perfect, regardless of how in control I feel. I don't know, something like that. I know that helps me, is just releasing that control over everything that happens in my life and just accepting it as it comes. And that's why I should try dating an older woman. I love you.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
So much talk just to say that what they really want is a young collagen boost to lift their self-esteem while adding some excitement to their lives. I have no issue with a man dating an older woman, as long as it's clear that it's a relationship for fun and experience, not a long-term commitment. If you're a young man in your 20s, my advice is not to marry someone twice your age. But if it's an adventure that gives you experience, go for it. Let's be honest. Many of these women on the wall are looking for young men because men their age are no longer interested. They offer money or favors to attract them, turning into the so-called sugar mommies. Meanwhile, younger women are looking for men in their 30s and 40s because those men are at their peak, offering more stability and resources. That's the dating market. Everyone is looking where they think they can gain the most. In the end, I see nothing wrong with a man having fun and learning with an older woman, because it's better than wasting time on empty Instagram content or that blue app that offers nothing of value. Anything that adds experience counts.
I knew this little question was going to come up. Yes, I was married when I met my current husband on TikTok. I'll explain. My relationship with my ex-husband was more of a friendship
That's a great justification for cheating.
thing. We both met when we were in really lonely places in our late 30s. We both wanted a family. We had a lot in common, and we had met in elementary school, so we felt really safe with each other. But we ignored the fact that there wasn't really a spark.
The things women tell themselves to justify having an affair is crazy.
So when I met my current husband, there was this immediate connection, attraction. I felt very I don't know how to describe it. When it's the person, you just kind of know. So within 3 days of meeting my current partner, I had to admit to myself and my ex that
3
we
days.
were just friends.
3 days.
And I tore the band-aid, and now we're all great friends.
This is a perfect example of why you never let a woman tell you that you're being insecure for wanting to check her phone. This is another perfect example of the lies that women will tell themselves to justify cheating on their partner. This is also another perfect example of how she met her now husband. After 3 days, she realized that her ex-husband wasn't good enough, or that there was no spark, or whatever the case. 3 freaking days when she's known her ex-husband since elementary school. It is just crazy the level of justification women will go, rather than just saying, like, I cheated, I fucked up, you own the behavior, and you deal with the consequences. But instead, she pins it as, we were just friends, there was no spark. And I would love to hear her ex-husband's side of the story, because I can guarantee you that he was blindsided by the fact that he was being cheated on by somebody that he's known since elementary school. And from TikTok. I really hope her new husband actually stalks her social media like a freaking psychopath, because honestly, how you get them is also how you lose them. Okay, bye.
Oh, hell no!
This woman left her husband after meeting a younger Chad on TikTok for just 3 days. 3 days were enough for her to justify her infidelity with the typical excuse, there was no spark. We were just like friends. It's a classic example of how women, being emotional beings, make decisions based on what they feel in the moment. It doesn't matter if her husband gave her stability, comfort, and a home. When a Chad comes along and sparks intense emotions, everything else takes a back seat. Her husband offered security and comfort, but as I always say, comfort is boring for a woman. This Chad, on the other hand, gave her uncertainty, anxiety, and the spark she was looking for. It's a perfect example of why men need to learn how to keep a woman on an emotional roller coaster. It's not about being mean, but about being unpredictable, strong, and always focused on improving your physique, finances, and life. Remember, absence, anxiety, and uncertainty will always be your best allies. The emotional roller coaster is what keeps the spark alive.
And I'm gonna give you 5 reasons why younger men are interested in older women. First of all, because many older women, they are already in divorced or separated, or they have kids, or they kind of tick those boxes, which are called, the box of marriage and the box of kids. So they come in the package with less commitment and less headache, because most of them, maybe they don't want to get married again and have kids. And these guys, they are not ready. They just want to have a good time. Number two is because older women, they have more knowledge and they have more experience, and I guess guys could learn more things from them. Number three is because allegedly older women, they're more mature and they have their shit together. But this is kind of debatable, because I know so many women my age, they're in their 40s or older, they don't have any shit together and they are still behaving like they're in high school. Number four, because intimacy it's much better. An older woman is supposed to be more experienced than I don't know, a 20-year-old one. And last but not least, older women can look fabulous. 40s are the new 30s and 50s are the new 40s. They can look very good, they can be very well maintained and preserved. They can be in very good shape, and they are a lot of fun to have around.
Mature women often know better what they want. Many enjoy deeper conversations and seek excitement without the drama. They understand that a young man isn't there to be their husband or provider. They see him as an adventure, a source of fun and collagen. Essentially, they play the role of the lover in a young man's life, but with the assurance that they won't ask for more than he can give. These women are also usually easier to win over. They know a 20-something man isn't there to offer stability, and they've likely already got their life figured out. A career, money from a divorce, or they've simply accepted their place on the wall. They spend their money on experiences, including the company of a younger man who gives them excitement and that spark they might have lost after years of routine. That said, not all women are like this. Some, regardless of their age, never mature, but others know exactly what they're looking for. Fun for a few years, especially if they've just come out of a passionless marriage. I'm not encouraging young men to pursue this path, but I recognize the facts. I'll always support a young man who seeks to build a family with a younger woman to create something solid. That's what this country really needs. Strong men building strong families.
You know what I really can't stand about dating at this big age of 39? Look, I'm grown. Like, I'm about to be 40 over the hill grown, right? Why are we still talking about virtue or body count like that fucking matters? Like, I am dating a bunch of divorcees who cheated on their wife, who have multiple children by multiple partners, me included. That's no shade, but let's just illustrate facts. We got kids. They weren't the immaculate fucking conception. Why are y'all acting brand fucking new? We are sifting through the clearance rack of fucking love looking for a partner, and you want to talk about virtue. She's got to be demure. She's got to be mindful. I'm not. I don't fucking care. I gotta act like I ain't been out here fucking when I have. If y'all don't get the fuck out of here, I'm not doing that shit. I can barely find the time to commit to a fucking date, to agree to a location and show up looking like a presentable human being. If the stars fucking align and put us in the same place, I'm supposed to hope that that statistical anomaly can reoccur enough times for me to justify sleeping with you when I already know that I want to. Do you know how long it's been? I'm sick of this shit. I'm gonna pretend I'm not a fucking hoe. Bitch, I'm fucking. He's gonna think you're
Older men avoid women with so much baggage for a clear reason. They're not looking to deal with a resume that includes being a wife, girlfriend, and mistress. These women come in demanding to be accepted as if they're brand new, but men do care about their past. It's not just about the number of relationships. It's because every experience matters, and red flags don't go unnoticed. First, there's the concern about health and avoiding potential diseases. Second, men evaluate a woman's values. If you've been with all kinds of men and, worse yet, been a mistress, how can you expect them not to worry? Being a mistress reflects poor judgment in choosing partners and shows a willingness to cross boundaries without hesitation. Woman, if you can't recognize the red flags in your own history, don't expect a man to overlook them. Rejection isn't superficial, it's common sense.
Here's how to never get ghosted again. First off, if you see someone starts to ghost you, just text them. Hey, I heard some crazy shit about you that you might want to hear. And they're 100% gonna respond to you. And once they do, you ghost them. Fuck them.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll take a look at the perfect man that every feminist claims to want. A man who cleans, cooks, supports, and adapts to everything. We'll see how a woman celebrates him and puts him on a pedestal, but, curiously, she still doesn't recommend marriage. We'll also analyze the hidden problems in their relationship because, as we know, not everything that glitters is gold. We want you to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We thank those who support the project with their super chats and share their experiences in the comments. That's what helps this community grow. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. All right, let's get started.
Let me give you an example of what it looks like to be married to a competent and capable man who gives a shit. I came home last night to find the entire house had been cleaned. Our Bath & Body Works candles that he ordered had come in, had been lit. The rest of our Christmas decorations had been put up, adorably, by the way. And he had gone and got new Christmas stuff for our boys' bathrooms and put it out after he cleaned it. That's him cleaning the toilet. I also didn't ask him to do any of this. I didn't make him a list of things to do. I didn't leave it out for him. I didn't request that any of this be done. I simply went to work. I came home. And my husband had acted like a completely competent and capable adult who gives a shit about his family, who takes care of his house, who cares about how it looks, and likes to also equitably participate in making Christmas magical for our family.
Oh my God! Wow!
As a man, it's perfectly fine to help around the house from time to time. It's your home too, and keeping it in order doesn't take away from your masculinity. However, there's a big difference between helping and becoming the house husband who takes full control of cleaning, decorating, and grocery shopping. That's a line I don't recommend crossing. This man is every feminist's dream. He cleans, decorates, takes care of everything without being asked, and assumes the role that was traditionally expected of a wife. It might seem like the perfect marriage for them, but the reality is quite different. A man who operates with feminine energy doesn't spark the attraction they think he does. Let's watch the next video because there's more, straight from the legendary Simps.
Do you want to know what the problem with my husband is? It's taken me 13 years to figure this out. And the problem is that he makes me believe I could do literally anything. Quit my job and start my own business. believable. Started podcasts. Did it. Start content creating and create a second income for our family. Check. Now this man is out here making me think that I could write a book. And that's the problem. He's allowed me to believe these things. So much so that I did them. Or might do them. I don't know. But that's the problem with a supportive husband. They make you think that you could do a lot of things and then support you throughout the entirety of them. Be your biggest cheerleader. Celebrate you in every single aspect. Yeah.
Now everything makes sense. This man has the goose that lays the golden eggs. An empowered woman who earns her own money, supports him, and the more money she brings in, the better it is for him. With that setup, even I would applaud you, brother. But here's the problem. Genuine interest can't be negotiated. No matter how much support you offer, if you act like her personal cheerleader instead of a man with direction, you end up in the gay friend category, not the husband category. This type of behavior, where he becomes her biggest fan and main source of support, might seem like a good strategy, but it often kills the spark of desire. When a woman feels that you're her motivational coach, the sexual tension fades because she no longer sees you as a masculine figure of attraction, but as emotional support. Brother, leading is not the same as applauding. It's fine to support, but never lose your role as a man in the relationship. But let's keep going.
This comment came from a video where I'm telling women, I don't recommend marriage and motherhood. And I say that as a happily married woman and a mother of 2 children. And what this commenter and so many men in this comment section don't understand is that I'm saying this with all of the privilege that I have, with an amazing, supportive, participative husband that I have, the support that I have of my own family to help me with our children. I'm saying that with all of that it's still so hard. That it's still so hard when you have a well-paying job, a supportive husband, a support system to help you with your children. It's still so hard. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that even with all of the things that are supposed to make it good and make it easier and make it better, I still can't recommend it, because even still, even after my experience, which has been a fairly decent one, I cannot recommend it because there are still obstacles and hurdles and brick walls set up to make it extensively harder for women. That's what I'm saying. That's why you listen to the happily married people when they're telling women, don't get married and don't have children, because it's still that fucking hard.
Stop it. Get some help.
And here's the reason why I never recommend marrying a feminist. Like a pig with a ring in its nose, she will always be insatiable. Even if she has a perfect marriage with the perfect man, she'll still say not to get married or have children. Because, at the end of the day, misery loves company. She doesn't want other women to have what she has. She wants them all on the same wall with no kids. The worst enemy of a woman will always be another woman. Look at this man, the one she describes as wonderful, supportive, and involved. You'd think that, with all that, he'd be getting the best intimacy of his life, right? After all, he does everything she wants and plays the role of the perfect husband. But no, here we are, listening to this same woman say she can't recommend marriage or motherhood. Brother, if even the perfect man can't make a feminist happy, imagine the rest of us. But don't worry, because the next part of this story reveals a lot more.
I haven't slept with my husband in probably a year. Unintentionally, probably 4 or 5 months. Intentionally, probably 8 or 9 months. And that really gets a lot of people upset and causes them to jump to a lot of conclusions. And when I say sleeping together, I mean literally lying unconscious next to him. We've been sleep divorced for about a year, intentionally 7 months, unintentionally a full year. So, people ask all the time, like, how did this happen? What do you do? Like, and they honestly, their first thought is that we're unhappy and our marriage is on, the downward spiral. And that's not the case. You should be prioritizing your sleep. Have you ever not slept for an extended period of time? Because this thing is real fucking terrifying when you don't. It's really dangerous for you, for your family. And I experienced it firsthand how fucking dangerous and terrifying it is when you don't sleep for long stretches of time. So I had to prioritize my sleep, and that meant not sleeping with my husband. And that's just the way it is. Because for me to be a functioning adult, for me to be an active mother and wife, I have to prioritize my sleep, and that means sleeping alone. And you know what? We're fine. My husband is fine. I am fine. My marriage is fine. We don't need your pity. We don't need your sorrow. Everything's okay. If you sleep great next to your spouse, wonderful. Love that for you. If you don't, that's okay. Doesn't mean you love your spouse any less. Doesn't mean that your marriage is on the rocks. Doesn't mean you're headed for divorce. It simply means that you two are confident in your marriage and in your relationship with each other to know that lying unconscious next to each other for 8 hours a night is not going to be the thing that breaks you. And if it is, your marriage was shit to begin with.
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
When you become your partner's gay friend, forget about intimacy. Think logically. If a man gets upset with his woman, she tries to qualify herself to win him back. She'll cook something special for you, put on sexy clothes, and that night you'll have the best intimacy of your life. But if you're the perfect man who does everything for her, no drama, no conflict, you remove any reason for her to make an effort for you. When is she supposed to feel motivated to play her role as a wife if you're already doing it all? That's why I always say, a man must be strong in his boundaries and soft in his needs. A woman won't contribute financially, but she will offer acts of service and emotional support. If you don't give her space to put in effort, she won't qualify herself for you. The man who becomes her best gay friend doesn't create sexual tension, and that's why he ends up sleeping in separate bedrooms. She'll come up with any excuse like prioritizing sleep, but that dead bedroom has already turned into a roommate arrangement. The worst part is, there are men who settle for so little. Brother, never become a paper husband for any woman.
My marriage isn't doomed because my husband and I sleep separately. If my husband and I were ever to get a divorce, I promise it would not be because we slept separately. And I know a lot of people misunderstood and think that the cause for my sleeping separately is because of him. It has nothing to do with him. Yeah, he's a pretty big guy and takes up most of the bed, but that is not the reason why we decided to sleep separately. It's because over the summer I had a complete mental breakdown that led to me being hospitalized, and it was because I wasn't sleeping. And now that I'm done and I'm out of the hospital, I have a lot to process about sleep and its association. And for whatever reason, I have a negative association with our bed. To me, it just signals I'm not going to sleep if I get in this bed. And that's been really difficult for me to overcome. And since I've had to really focus on and prioritize my health this year, the number one thing was sleep. And I've slept all over the house. I've slept on the couch. I've slept in the basement. I've slept in the playroom. I've slept in my closet. And my closet was the easiest thing for me to turn into my own dedicated room. And I have to sleep there because if I don't sleep, we know what happens. And so prioritizing my sleep was the main reason why we have decided to sleep separately. The dudes that think that it's gay to clean your home, buy candles so your home smells good because you know that your wife likes it, buy Christmas decorations and set them up to match the current Christmas decorations, those guys that think it's gay are the same ones who look like they have never washed their ass because they're afraid their finger might slip in and they might like it a little too much.
She got upset when people said her husband seems gay, but let's be honest, his behavior isn't helping. I'm not saying he is, but a man who takes charge of decorating the house, matching Christmas ornaments, and buying scented candles to please his wife is definitely crossing a line. If she's not even sleeping with him anymore, something is off. There's no emotional or sexual connection. And we all know that when that connection breaks, the marriage starts to fall apart. Masculine polarity is essential, whether women like it or not. When a man stops acting like a man, the marriage is destined to fail. I'm not saying you shouldn't clean or help around the house, but there's a line that should never be crossed: fully taking on the role of the wife. Part of maintaining interest and connection is the emotional roller coaster, which includes moments of anger and disagreement. Anger, though many don't realize it, is a stronger emotion than love. If you don't let your woman play her role in the relationship, she'll end up disconnecting from you, not just emotionally, but also sexually. Attraction dies when you stop being the man in the equation. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, here are some questions for you. Why do you think being too accommodating in a relationship is a bad thing? What are your thoughts on this story? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall.